Great. So welcome everyone. As every month, we have an incredible speaker, expert, and guest at our My Speaker Business community. And so we do today. It's a very special treat today. And I know it is also a topic that a lot of you, can't get enough of. It's really all about the art of persuasion, how to sell without selling. Before we jump into that, as you know, these calls are actually run on a monthly basis to inspire you and give you concrete hints and tips on how you can make your speaking business flourish further. And as I said, today we have a very special guest and a very special topic, because the art of persuasion, how to sell without selling, is critical for all of us as speakers, as entrepreneurs, because we need more skills than just be great speakers or mesmerize an audience. You also need to know, especially when we are running our own events, to fill the room, to invite people, to have an audience to speak to, and also to sell our products and to get others to commit to important issues. And there's a lot of difference between inspiring a person to do something and really selling them to do something. So as you know, we all hate to be sold to, but we love to buy. So this is what we talk about today. And let me make an introduction to our really precious guest today. She's a great friend, and she's an inspiration to many for many years. She's one of the most prolific influencers on the who is who of the most innovative minds in thought leadership in the last 40 years. And she's running an executive training firm specializing in transformational leadership training and communication arts technology. And she's even, she's called Dame Marcia. She has even been knighted in 2008. And she has provided leadership trainings in Europe, South America, Africa, Canada, Mexico, Asia, and the US. And she has a who is who list of clients like Capital One, McCain Foods. She's right now working with Hard Rock International all over the world to train their teams. And she's worked with Warner Brothers and Intercontinental Hotels, many others. And she was personally mentored by innovative academic thinkers like Buckminster Fuller, that people like me only read about these days, and we quote him, but we never met him. So she has been mentored by him. Also, the people like Warren Bennis and Werner Erhard. And she was the vice president and founding member of EST. A lot of you know that today, known as Landmark Forum, where she was really, from the beginning, instrumental in taking the company from its birth moment, inception, to a graduate base of millions within only just a 10 years period, right? So, there's so much more to say about you. You've worked with, the who is who in the industry, like, people like Jen Kenfield, Tony Robbins, Lynn Twist, T.Harv Eker, and many more have learned from you, worked with you, and it's amazing to have you with us today. So, Marcia, I know I could probably keep talking for hours about who you are and what you've done and the difference you've made, but let's get going on our topic today. So welcome. It's an honor and pleasure for me and everyone here in our community to have you with us today. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Just listening to your beautiful and very generous introduction, I'm really excited to hear what I have to say. Sounds like
so
I'm really special.
Oh, yes,
well,
you are.
Thank you. Well, I have had a very unique experience in life, and I'm very pleased and honored to be here with all of you. And I've known Monique for many years, and I know her commitment to and her passion of making sure that speakers around the world are educated and that they have activities that can help them promote themselves and assist themselves in what they do. So I am honored to be a part of that particular program. I think what I'll do is maybe give you a little bit of insight in my background and how I view sales and persuasion and enrollment. And then maybe we can do a back and forth question and answer, and I can find out what most is exciting for each of you and what most of you would like to learn. And as you all come on, all your beautiful faces and new people, it's very nice to have you here. So welcome, welcome, welcome. My life started when I was a very young girl in terms of being on the stage and being responsible for leadership. I was barely 20, 21 when I met Werner Erhard, and I was in a class of his. There was 20 people, and it was about transformation, and it was about seeing ourselves in a new way and being responsible. And it was the first class he had ever taught, and there were, like I said, only 20 of us in that class. And previous to that, I had studied with my aunt, who is a clairvoyant healer and an esoteric astrologist. And so I have a very spiritual background. In those days, we didn't tell anybody that we were sorceresses or magicians or healers. We just knew what we were and did what we did. But I learned all about energy from her, and I learned about healing, and I learned about connection, and I learned about values, and I learned about commitment. So by the time I met Werner, I was enthralled with this class because I could see and actually could have a vision that this particular teaching could be very instrumental worldwide in waking people up. And I was really excited about that. So pretty much I just started sharing with everybody that I met, everybody that I knew, how wonderful this was as an opportunity. And at our first meeting after the training, the 20 people came together again. And at that time, it wasn't like seminars today where we hold them in big seminar rooms and hotels and auditoriums. We were in a young person's apartment, and the graduates from the course were sitting in a circle on the floor, and Werner was taking us and telling us advanced ideas about the technology, and we could bring guests. And I had several guests there. And Werner went around the room, and he said to each of the guests, he said, "How did you get here?" And every single guest that night pretty much came from me. I think there were a couple people from someone else, but it sounded like this. One man said, "Well, I am a bus driver, and Marcia got on my bus. And she was just so lit up and full of life and vitality. And I saw that smile, and I just had to have whatever she had." And so she invited me, and I thought, well, whatever she's doing, I'm going to do. And then another woman said, "Well, I was in a restroom in a restaurant, and Marcia came in. She was so full of life and vitality and so just attractive in terms of inspirational that I wanted to do or have whatever she did or whatever she was having." And so she invited me, and I said, of course. And that was kind of like it for the first many years. I think Werner realized that he had a genuine person that was so filled, heartfelt about what we were doing. And so he made me the vice president and in charge of all the marketing. And that became 10 years of learning myself how to be a leader, how to be an executive, how to manage a team, how to be effective on a stage. I started off speaking to people from the desk or the dresser in the bedroom, because that's where we would have our guest seminars, and the guests would sit on the bed. To pretty soon we got small hotel rooms, and then pretty soon we got larger hotel rooms. And pretty soon, by the time I was leaving, I was filling the Cow Palace with 20,000 people. And by the time I left, we had millions of graduates worldwide, and I had 5,000 people working for me in my division of communication registration, and I was on the board of directors, and I was teaching others to do what I kind of did naturally, and then what Werner had taught me to do with a very specific technology. And that technology really is the technology of human development, how people connect, how people think, how our emotions work, what conversations we're in, and whether they're effective or not, how language works, so much. In addition to what turns a person on, what makes them want to do something? How can you go out in life and find out about other people's commitments and be so committed you want to be committed to what they're committed to? What is it about a person sharing? How can they share in such a way that they can get you or inspire you to be committed to what they're committed to? So that was my life. And then I took that technology and I really wanted to be in business, because those many 10 years I was in what we call education or service. I was teaching people, and I wanted to make a product and be a real businessman, woman, and find out, how one distributes. And I went into partnership with a woman that I adore now. She's passed away, a very talented woman named Laurel Birch. She was one of the most amazing designers, very celebrated for her talent. And we created a fashion jewelry company. And we used her designs. And then we imported silk from Japan. Then we imported mummy beads from Egypt that were 3,000 years old. And we got dyes out of France. And we got all of these amazing antiques from mainland China before China was open. We had a large workshop in Hong Kong, and we had offices in Los Angeles and San Francisco and New York. And we sold fashion jewelry and distributed it and manufactured it to wholesalers. So we had about 3,500 wholesale clients, everyone from Bloomingdale's to the Smithsonian Institute, on and on. And so I really learned about different cultures and international business, as well as how you make a product, and then how you sell that product, how you distribute that product, how to train your sales staff. And then from that time, I've been really a consultant or a coach to many corporations. And I've done my own seminars, and I've led personal development seminars my whole life called The Power of Speaking. And I have been a coach and an executive trainer for major corporations who have heard about me and brought me into their organizations. And currently, one of my most fun clients right now is Hard Rock Hotels International. And I work with all the executive teams of all the hotels around the world and train them in championship performance and in communication and in language and how it works and how one creates realities. So that how one can bring into existence a dream, a product, a result, or make a project work, or make a relationship work. So that's kind of my history. I feel like I'm the most trained person in the world because of those first 10 years, and then I was so committed from that time on. Those first 10 years, I spent every day and night being trained. It was 24/7. I was in a seminar or a training or a workshop every weekend, every evening, or I was on the phone enrolling people to be in the seminar, or I was a guest seminar leader in front of a room talking about the training and enrolling people into the seminar, or I was learning myself. So I've been immersed in this technology of human development. And I've now trained over 350,000 people personally worldwide. And so that's a little bit about my background and what I've done. But I would love to find out what you're interested in and what you would like to learn from me, or what you would like me to speak about, because I can speak about everything, as Monique knows. And once I start, my mouth doesn't seem to want to stop. So what kinds of things are you interested in, or what things would you like to know about, or what problems are you having or breakdowns that you would like to have some coaching on?
Right.
And remember, you're muted, so you'll have to unmute yourself in case you want to. And if you don't have a question right now, I can give you a little bit of information about enrollment in sales. It looks like what is your name?
Chanel, you're muted. You might want to unmute yourself.
Yes, wonderful.
Thank you for such a lovely introduction. Very inspiring. My name's Chanel Aramelli, and I can just feel the alignment, so that's exciting. Yeah, I could a question that I know, Monique, you've been addressing with me as well. And so I'd love to hear from you, Marcia, what it takes to, I've been doing one-on-one transformational work, kind of the science and spirituality and behind change in all aspects of life and raising vibration. But to take that from, my reservations are always that, gosh, I work so beautifully one-on-one. I can impact such incredible change. And I really want to touch more lives. And, there's that inner part of us that says, but I'm not going to be able to help them with their problem specifically because I want to work in larger groups, speak at larger events. I've done some workshops and I want to scale it so I can increase my impact and my income. And really just want to see what inspiration you could share that would help me break through that fear of going from private one-on-ones, which I don't want to let go of, but I want to create more space for group work.
Okay. So when I'm listening to you, I'm not sure that the question is really the question you're asking, because you can make an impact, whether it's a group or a one-on-one. That's not really the question, is how do you make an impact? It's more, well, how do you have a group? In other words, one-on-one is a conversation you're having with someone, and somehow in that conversation you inspire them and they get that you can help them, and then they say, I want you to help me, and they sign up for your program. So how do you then get 50 people to sign up for your program, or 100 people to sign up for your program, or 200 people to sign up for your program? And it sounds like that's more of where your question is coming from, rather than how do you help them. If your work is what I'm sensing it is, and you understand those technologies that you're teaching, then sharing that information with people and putting together exercises where people can practice it, then automatically they're going to get benefit. So it's not how can I help them? I would say it's more, well, how do I get 100 people in the room so I can help them? Does that ring more true to you? Okay. All right, well then let me talk about my philosophy on sales, because I think that's at the crux of the question that you're asking. First of all, I can't tell you how many tens of thousands of people that I've come in contact with, and they say things like, well, I'm not a salesman. Well, I can't sell. Well, I don't really like to sell, but I'm a really great teacher. I'm a really great speaker. And I'm so committed to giving to people, and I want to help people. And so I have a passion, but I'm not a salesman. And even artists, I mean, I'm talking about transformational teachers because that's the industry that we're in. But when I'm coaching an artist, they all say the same thing. Well, I'm a great artist and I love to paint and I know how to do this, but I don't know how to sell, and I don't know how to get my work out there, and I don't know how to share my work with people. So there's, first of all, this thing that I have noticed with people that I've never had. So I'm a good person to teach you, because it really doesn't exist, really. You are a salesman, that's all you do, every single human being. And to not understand that is what's missing. It's not that you're not a salesman and somebody is. It's just that you don't understand that you are a salesman, and all there is sales. So whether it's you want to invite somebody to dinner, or you want to ask somebody to marry you, or you want to inspire a team to win and tell them why it's worthwhile to go out and play hard even when you're tired, or it's that you want to teach a young child how to go to potty in the toilet rather than in his pants. I mean, there's just, all of that is sales. That's all it is. It's pretty much, how do I share in a way that you are so touched and so inspired and so moved that you would go through the discomfort of whatever it is that is on your end to actually do the thing that I'm suggesting that you do. So sales isn't a push, it's a pull, is my philosophy. It's not a manipulation, it's an inspiration. It's not a talking someone into something. It's being willing to listen in such a way that they're able to talk themselves out of all the objections that they have themselves. So if first of all, if we just say life is, I always say life's a guest seminar. Because when I grew up and I was a young girl and we started creating Landmark, you know, that's what we said. Life's a guest seminar. That's all there is. Life's a guest seminar. I'm selling something. I'm convincing somebody. I'm inspiring somebody. Life is a guest seminar. And so if you first could come from that place, conceptually and intentionally, that life is a guest seminar and I am selling something. I have something that I'm impassioned about that I want others to be involved with, whether it's come to my seminar or whatever it is, buy a product, take a class, do something uncomfortable. Now, that's kind of the ground of being is what I call that's the ground of being. You have to come from that place. You can't be saying, I'm not a salesman. You have to allow and accept the fact that that's all you are. And all life is a opportunity to sell whatever it is you're selling. That's the whole game. So if you can get yourself to that place, then a little bit more it becomes fun because it's a game. You're involved in this game of, I have something and I really want you to do it with me. And now it's a puzzle. Well, how do I share myself in such a way that you agree to do that with me? So we have that spirit of it's fun, it's not hard, it's fun, it's not bad, it's not terrible, it's good, it's all there is, it's what's life, it's a journey like that. Then here's how I look at it. You have to consider that if you break sales down, there's certain things that people need to know the answers to be able to say yes or no. They need to know the answers for themselves, whether they want it, whether they need it, and whether they can afford it. All right? Then there's a fourth thing, which is whether or not, once they know that, they're going to do it. So first of all, it's a question, do I want it? Do I need it? Can I afford it? And then it's a decision, am I going to do it or not? How sales works in the oldest paradigm, in the most dinosaur way of looking at sales, in the way where we say, you're a snake oil salesman, you're pushing me, you're pressuring me, that kind of dynamic. How it works when you break it down is a salesman tells you what you want, what you need, and what you can afford. Now, I want you really to get this because we do it all the time. We say things like, oh, you should do this. Oh, you're going to really love this. Oh, this is going to be really good for you. Oh, you can afford this. I mean, you have a glass of wine every night. So, you know, if you have, instead of one, you have a half, then you've saved 5 cents. And if you save 5 cents every day, then you can afford this. So all of those things are me telling you what you need, what you can afford, and what you want. Can everybody kind of understand what I'm saying? Just shake your heads and like you're on the same page here. Okay, great. Now that is a manipulation. Because the truth of it is, as a human being, you can't tell anybody what they want or need or they can afford. That's called self-determination. It's something that each human being has to look for themselves and find out what's so about that for themselves. Now, here's where we come up against psychology and human nature. People don't want to look at that. It's uncomfortable. Why is that? Because to look at something, you have to go within. To look at whether I want it or I need it, I have to actually go within and consider, do I want it? Do I need it? Can I afford it? It's an inward process. It's not an outward process. Now, most human beings are filled up with fear and doubt and trauma and old incidents that they haven't handled, and so it's uncomfortable, and emotions and stress and all sorts of things. So whenever they go inside, it's not that much fun and it's uncomfortable. So why do I want to go inside and think about what I want when I go inside and I feel and I notice, wow, I don't know what I want, and oh, I can't think about it now what I want, and besides which I'm really stressed right now, and that's a question I don't know the answer to, and it feels uncomfortable not knowing the answer. And are you with me now? Are you kind of feeling this process? Okay. So if you're going to get someone in touch with whether they want something or they need something, or they can afford something, you're going to have the courage and be willing to be able to listen generously while they go through their shit, technical term. Okay? They're going to go through all of their discomfort, and they're going to give you all the reasons why they can't make a decision, why they don't want to make a decision, why they don't want to look, etc. And if you're not able to be centered and present and connected and can receive, then you won't be able to receive what they're saying with you. And the only way they can get rid of their shit is to have you listen and get it. So if you don't get it, and what not getting it sounds like this. Oh, well, but you should want it. Oh, but you shouldn't be that way. See, what you're doing is you're pushing back all the things they're trying to give you. And instead of receiving them and kind of putting over to the side and just acknowledging, oh, I get how you're feeling. Oh, I get what you're going through. Oh, I understand what you're experiencing. Oh, I'm here with you. I can feel that it's uncomfortable. Yes, I understand that. Yes, I understand that fear. Yes, I understand that doubt. Yes, until you empty them out, a lot like you would take a glass of water and pour it out so you have an empty glass. Human beings need to be emptied out so they have enough room to be able to look, to consider what they want, need, and can afford. All that other stuff is in the way, so they can't see it. They can't tell. And so to inspire someone and to be willing to listen to them when you allow them to look at choices it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. So it comes down to, well, if you want to inspire someone, are you committed enough to really be able to listen to what they're saying instead of pushing it back? Well, here's the deal, though. The reason you're pushing it back is you don't want it in you, because when you start listening to them, it starts reminding you of all that shit that's going on with you. And so you'd rather stay out here too. You don't want to take it in. So that's the kind of problem we have. We have two full glasses, two full human beings. And so there's no space on either side to do any listening. And all things exist in space. So there's two real laws of communication. One is you have to be present, and the person you're communicating with has to be present. And think of all the times you just start talking and you don't even know if anybody's over there, and you're probably not there either. So mostly we don't even ask ourselves, hey, am I here? Or am I thinking about what I want to do next week? Am I really here, present, when I'm listening to someone? Or am I putting together in my head what I want to respond? If I'm thinking about how I'm going to respond, I can't be present with what's being received. So that's the first law. You have to be present if communication is going to take place. And the second law is there has to be space in which things can exist. So if you're going to receive something from someone, their feelings, their considerations, their thought process, their experience, you have to have space in which that can be received. And if they're going to receive what you want to share in terms of why you're excited about something and what your experience is, they have to have space. But the condition is mostly all of us are filled up and none of us do the work to create space within ourselves or do the work to really practice being present so we can be a generous listening for someone else to create space for them. I just happen to be an alien. I don't know if I'm an alien or I'm a unicorn, but my whole life has been about being trained for that purpose. I mean, literally, I've been in a seminar to be present and to genuinely listen very generously as part of my life purpose. So, you know, for me, I don't think about things when people are talking to me. I'm listening to them. And when they're done talking, they have space and they feel good. Why did all those people say, I came because Marcia, blah, blah, blah? Well, because I was with them in a way that really listened to them and got them. And then I shared from my heart. Now, here's the other piece. So we've got generous listening, space, receiving, emptying someone out. That's a whole piece. Here's the other piece. Instead of telling people what they're going to get, what I do is I tell people what my experience is, authentically and from my heart. I share my experience. I don't know what they're going to get. I know what I got. I know what happened to me. I know what happened to my clients. I know what happened to the people that came to my seminar. I know what people told me they got. And when I share those stories, people are inspired. So I come from my experience and say what's so for me instead of telling them what's so for them. I don't tell them what they're going to get or why they want it or why they need it or why they can afford it. I share why I wanted it, how I got the money together, why it was important for me to be able to change my priorities, why I needed it. Now that makes you very vulnerable. Sharing yourself instead of telling other people what's going on with them, you see? So first of all, if I can be present and then I can come from, hey, life is a guest seminar and here it is, I'm going to share this great thing that's going on with me. And then I can listen to whatever they're giving me and not push it back, but actually consider it's possible. Instead of saying, well, that's not the way it is, you don't understand. I listen as if they're brilliant and as if it's possible. That's called generous listening. I don't listen as if people are idiots and if they don't know. And everybody I come in contact with, I just say to myself, look, here's a brilliant person who's got something possible to share. And from that point, I'm a receiver. I love getting what they have to tell me. And I can say, okay, oh, I got it. Oh, I understand. Instead of saying, well, that's not what you should feel. Well, that's not how you should do it. Now you go, oh, I get it. Okay, thank you for telling me. Now, if I can empty out enough and if I can share vulnerably enough, after a while, they've got some space. Then I can ask them questions. Instead of telling them what they feel or what they want or what they need, I can say, well, do you think this would be valuable for you? That's a question. I'm not telling them it would be valuable for them. I'm asking if they think it would. I already know it's valuable for me. I got a lot of stories I can share. And I'm just interested, is this something that you might benefit from? Is this something that you might like to do? Is this something that might be of value to you? Is this something that you think would be a priority in your life to be uncomfortable to do something to make sure you gave it to yourself? I'm asking questions. And I know, because I'm trained, when I ask a question, they're going to go inside. You can't ask a question out here and get the answers out here. When somebody asks you a question, you look up, you look to the side, you look down. You're doing triggers in your brain that cause you to access your internal experience. You're going inside to look. And I also know, and I'm very compassionate about this, because I know my own fears, that when people go inside, they're going to get in touch with things that are uncomfortable for them to look at, because most of us haven't handled our shit. It's still there lingering around. And so I know that. And I know they're going to say things like, well, I just don't want to do this. I hope you understand. And I know that they're going to get a little more emotional. They could get angry even. But I don't take it personally. I know they're sharing whatever's going on with them. And then I can say, oh, thank you. I do understand. Thank you. I'm glad you told me that. Okay, fine, good. All right, fantastic. Thank you again. Good. Anything else? What else do you feel? What else do you think? Oh, thank you for telling me. All of those are receiving kinds of words, just letting them know I got what they said. I'm not putting anything in, I'm still taking things out. And when I can see that there's some space there within themselves, again, I'll re-ask a question. I might say, well, would you like me to tell you some of the things that happened to me? And either they will or they won't. It's not a manipulation. I'm not trying to get them to say yes. I'm actually interested if they want to hear any more questions or any more stories. And if they do, then I tell them some more stories from my heart about me, about people that's gone through it. I don't tell them what they're going to experience. I don't know. And then I ask the question again, well, what do you think? Do you think this is something that you would get value from? Now notice I didn't ask them, are you going to do it? I asked them questions around, do you think this would be good for you? Do you think that you would want something like this? Do you think you could get value? Do you think that you could get it together to be able to handle it financially for yourself? Those are all questions I'm asking them, what they want, what they need, and what they can afford. Because those are self-determined answers. I can't tell them what they want, need, and afford. I can only ask them and give them some courage to look and stay in there with them while they go through the bumpy road of being afraid to answer and being not confident or being unclear, and share some more stories. So I'm sharing my experience, I'm receiving and listening, and I'm asking some questions that keeps them going back inside. At some point, they will indicate by how they share that they do want it, or they do need it, or they can afford it. They will say something like, yeah, this sounds like it would actually be really good for me. You know, I can see how this would be something that I could get value from. Now, what a salesman does is exactly the opposite of what I'm telling you. In other words, I'm asking them the answers to their questions, whether they want, need, or can afford it. A salesman tells them the answers. A salesman says, you need this. You are going to get so much value from this. This is going to be so good for you. You can afford it. That's a salesman telling them what they need, want, and afford. I'm asking them. And I'm being there with them so they can be safe enough to actually look, because they're in this world of, most of us don't even know what we want. We're not clear on it. We haven't looked. And then a salesman does something that's also opposite of what I want you to do if you're going to be an enroller. A salesman sits back and says, well, are you going to get it? So remember I told you there's whether you want it, you need it, and afford it, and then there's whether you actually get it or not, right? A salesman tells you you want it, you need it, and afford it, and then sits back and lets you decide whether you're going to get it. Now, the most important questions are whether you want it, need it, and afford it. Those are the most important. That's theirs to determine. But the most uncomfortable thing to do is to make a decision, yes or no. So what I do is, once I hear that they want it, I just tell them what they need to do to have it. I don't ask them if they're going to do it. I tell them how to do it. I go, great. Okay, well then, why don't you fill out a deposit here? Go get your credit card and tell me what the number is on it. Okay, fine. Let's look at your calendar and determine, are you going to be in the first course or the second course? Do you want the red earring or the green earring? You see, it's like, this is how you get it. I'm giving them instructions. I'm not asking them whether. And when you put all of that together and you throw in a little dose of loving people, it's just about, you know, it's a human being. They're real. They have fears just like you. They have love just like you. They have trauma just like you. It's like, it ain't the easiest thing being a human being sometimes. So, you know, if you can love them through it, and sometimes it takes a year, and sometimes it takes a month, and sometimes it takes a minute. Sales isn't one of those things that, okay, now I'm going to start selling. Okay, now I'm done selling. No, it's like ongoing. And a person might get to a place where they say, well, I'm not sure if I want to be in your coaching program. I say, okay, fine. Well, do you want me to continue to have you on my mailing list? Do you want me to tell you more stories? I accept their particular answer because it's their answer. I got to tell you, I had the most funny talk with a person I'm coaching the other day, and I'll just kind of show you what I'm saying in a way that makes it fun to consider. Because most of us think of selling as, I've got a course that I want you to do, or I've got a book that I want you to buy, or I've got a widget that I want you to get, right? So she said to me, I really need help on helping my 2-year-old get potty trained. I said, okay, well, tell me what you're doing, and I can probably give you some advice. Because I'm listening to who she is, how she's saying it, what's happening. And so in that, I can tell what's not working and what's working. And so she says, well, I go up to him at different times during the day and I say, honey, do you want a potty? And he says, yes. So I take him to the potty and I sit him on the potty and we wait. And sometimes we wait for half an hour, 40 minutes, and he doesn't potty. So finally I say, well, I guess you don't want a potty, right? And he says, no, I don't want a potty now. And then we get him off the toilet and we put his diapers on and then he potties. Okay. Anybody been in that situation with kids? Okay. So I said to her, well, when you're at work, does anybody come up to you and ask you the question, do you want a potty? I mean, does that happen? And she's like, well, of course not. Well, like, why are you asking him? Like, what's his answer going to be? He's 2 years old. He loves you so much. He wants to please you. And if you say, are you ready to potty? Do you want to potty? He can tell that you want him to potty and he wants to please you. His answer is always going to be yes. I said, why don't you just tell him something else? Why don't you say to him, honey, tell me when you want to potty. I'm not going to ask you. Just tell me when you want to potty. And then he will remember that or not, because he's a beginner. And so he'll make mistakes. Just like when you're a beginner skier, you don't go to the top, black runs. You start at the bunny hill and you fall down. And so he'll forget. And so when you notice he has potty in his pants, then you say to him, oh, honey, you forgot to tell me that you wanted to potty, right? Yeah, I did, Mom. Well, that's okay. Why don't you try to remember better next time? So next time, just tell me when you want to potty, and then I'll help you. I said, and you can be sure the next time he's going to finally get to the place where he tells you he wants to potty, he's going to already have potty. But he's going to tell you, Mommy, I want to potty. So he's making strides. And so then you can acknowledge him, say, you're such a good boy. You told your mommy when you wanted to potty. Now, next time, try to do it right before you potty. Just tell me before you potty. Would that be fun for you? And I can even tell you stories about what I did how I figured out how to potty. You see, all I'm doing is I'm getting him to look inside and getting him to be aware and getting him to be present. I'm not telling him what's so for himself. And at some point, he'll come to me and he'll say, Mommy, I have to potty, and it will be before he actually potties. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Is we treat human beings as if we have the answer for them, and we don't. From my point of view, we have questions. And sometimes when they answer, what they say is they're aligned with us. And then we know, hey, that's great. Maybe we can play together. Fill out this card, sign up. So I guess what I'm saying to you to answer your question is, I would look more about how many times you can offer your services and talk about it in such a way that you're sharing rather than figuring out how to help them. You already know how to help them. But you're probably a little bit shy of asking them to join you, right? So you can share what you do though, and then you can say, is this something that you might consider yourself coaching? And then the other part of your question I want to say to you, once you have a lot of people that you do one-on-one, put on an event for all of them. They will automatically enroll, and you will have a group. And you're smart enough and you're experienced enough that you'll figure out how to give them value in that format. But I think it's not that you're concerned about how to give value. I think you're just concerned about, I'm a little scared to actually take the chance of getting 50 people, you know, and be willing to have 50 no's before you get a yes. That's part of it too, yeah? Does that help? Awesome, okay, good. And does that help some of you, the others in the room? Are you listening? Is this value to you? Yay, good. And do you have other questions or comments?
Yeah, Paul asked a question. Paul, do you want to unmute yourself or do you want me to read it
Oh,
out?
I don't even notice over here. People are doing this. Okay. What was the last step? Sign up, do you see cultural differences, especially with international teams? Yes. Well, first of all, that's a great question. Thank you for asking it, Paul. Paul is bringing awareness to the fact that we all have different perspectives and we all have different cultures and beliefs and systems, and that we need to be smart enough to honor that and understand them. So I'll tell you something my aunt taught me when I was maybe 18, 17. And I'm not going into a religious thing here. I'm going into more of a spiritual thing, but I'm using it as an example for you, Paul, in terms of your question. She said, Marcia, God is always the same. God doesn't change. She says, but many people have different ideas about how they see God and how they hold God and what God is for them. So if you want to be effective as a human being, you need to know how to speak in people's languages. You need to know how to see from their perspective. So she told me I should study all the world religions, which is one of the things I did by the time I was 20, so that I could, because I knew God's the same. So if somebody wants to call God this in their language, that's fine. I'm in their language. So why can't I call God that with them while they're in that conversation? Do you understand? So what she's also saying, what I would say to you, Paul, is cultural differences are about awareness. If you're going to be involved, I did business in China for years. And let me tell you how it used to be before China was open. When I went to China, I took a flight to Hong Kong. Then we took a train across the New Territories, which now is big buildings and shopping centers and all sorts of things. But used to be rice paddies. That's all it was, miles of rice paddies and rice fields. And we would take a train across the New Territories and we would come to the edge of the river. There's a river between the Hong Kong territories and mainland China. And they would say goodbye from Hong Kong. We would take our luggage and get off the train. And we had to walk our luggage over the river ourselves into mainland China, which was an entirely different world. A different world. I was a 5'6" woman, blonde, American, white. Do you understand? I had 300 people in a circle around me every place I walked, standing about 5 feet from me. So I'm like in the middle of this gigantic circle of people wherever I went, and they would be like this as I walked down the street. It was amazing. So here's how business went. Now, I was smart enough to ask my partner who had also been to China and had done business with the Chinese, how it worked. And that's part of what Paul's saying is there are cultural differences, and you better understand that culture and not require that they talk to you in your language, but learn their language, not the actual language, but their customs, the things that are taboo, the kinds of things they do or don't do, so that you can honor their culture and you can be in a conversation in their language. And so she taught me what was going to happen, but this is what happened. We would start the day and we would go for 45 minutes. Oh, I'm so honored to do business with you. Oh, we're so honored to do business with you. We can see that this is going to be a great partnership. Oh, we can see this will be a great partnership too. It is our honor to be able to be in business with you as we drink tea. 45 minutes back and forth. You're wonderful. We're so glad to be in business. You're so wonderful. We're so glad to be in business, blah, blah, blah. And that would last for 45 minutes. And literally, I saw Americans. I didn't see any other women, but I saw a couple of other men at the time I was in China then, and they were never invited back because they wanted to get to the point. And they didn't understand, no, there's a saving face kind of tradition where you honor and you drink tea and you say how much you enjoy each other. And you got to go through that. Now, we started at 9 and then at 11, and that was 45 minutes. So we do business after the 45 minutes, but at 11, everything stopped. Like if they were in the middle of a sentence, they would stop in the middle of the sentence and say, it's lunchtime. And from 11 to 2, we would be off while they did their resting or whatever they did. Now here's the deal. We would come back at 11 or at 2. We would have to go through the 45 minutes again. We already did it at 9, but at 2, we did it again. Such an honor to do business with you. I so appreciate doing business with you also. Oh, this is so wonderful to do business with you. And you had to go through it until it came to and it took about 45 minutes to get there. Then you could talk business. And then at 4 o'clock, it all stopped again. So whenever I went to China in the early days, and it wasn't even Beijing then, it was Peking, we would have to go and stay 4 to 5 weeks at a time to get anything done. Now, here's the other thing that would happen. At night, we would go to dinner with the Chinese businessmen, and they all smoked. And we'd be clouds around us, right? And you had 3 different kinds of wine and beer. You had a beer, a white Racina kind of thing that was just like kerosene, and then you had a red wine, like a plum. You had those 3 things. And the waiters would just keep filling them up. So first of all, you had to like really stay present so you could breathe, because it was like, and nobody talked business, even though it was a business meeting. And you would sit through and talk about anything except business. And I saw more Americans than not, and more North Americans than not, and more Europeans even than not, make the mistake to bring up business before they brought it up with you. And at the end of the dinner, almost the very end, all of a sudden, like that, okay, here's what we want to do. We want to go into business. We want to have this contract. We want to deliver this. We want to have the distribution. We want to blah, 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 blah. And then we would toast. So if I hadn't understood that, I wouldn't have been successful. So I would say, Paul, the last step, do you see cultural differences or sign up, especially with international teams? All of this works, but then you got to throw in, and what is their language? What is their culture? What are their traditions? And honor that. I look at people directly in the eye usually, but not when I'm in Japan. You know, it's more of a nuance there. I can look up, you see? So I don't make them wrong about the way they do life. I want to collaborate and blend in. And then if I'm blending in with them and I can understand that, you know, I can't maybe ask them, is this something valuable for you? in the first conversation. Maybe I have to wait 10 conversations before I start asking questions like that, because that's very personal. But if I am present and I'm looking at where the space is, what room is there for my next conversation or not, and how much generous listening do I need to do in the meantime, or be still and consider something different than I had thought, then the right thing will come up and I'll be appropriate in the moment. And that's what experts do, and that's what champions do. Champions don't think while they're playing. They play. And they play, and after a while, your mind and your body come together and you're in a zone. And so, you know, part of that zone needs to be you understand the cultural differences. Does that help? Or, oh, good. Yeah.
Fabulous, thank you. Marcia, do we have time for one more question, or do we need to start rounding it off? What's your time saying?
Well, I do want to talk to you about something that I'm doing.
Good,
and
go ahead.
See if, yeah. So I'm in the last quarter of my life. I'm in a different stage than I can tell most of you are. And so it's just different now. You know, it used to be about a lot of different things, and now really it's about just giving it away and having it be that I leave the work that I have and it gets distributed and carried on to, because my mission in life has always been to make a difference and make this a better world. So about 2 years ago, I was coaching one-on-one, and this guy says to me, could you record this? Now, I'm not good at cyber shit, whatever this is. You know, we're on Zoom. I know about two things. Like, somebody has to tell me how to get to the chat and remind me to look at the chat. So I go, I don't know how to do that. Nope. And he says, okay, well then just, here's what you do. Go up to this place, make me the host, and I'll record it. Like, okay, fine, I can do that. So I pushed the blah, blah, blah. He became the host and he recorded. 2 weeks later, we're on a coaching call again. And he said something like, wow, I was listening to that recording and it was so amazing what I got after I listened to it. And I was amazed. I said, you listened to it again? Really? Oh, Marcia, I listen to it every day. I go, come on. You don't listen to it every day. He says, no, I do. He says, you're my morning. You know, I put my cat in my lap and I have my tea and I listen to my coaching session with you. He says, I learn something new every time. So I actually thought, well, I'm going to listen to it. So I listened to it. And you guys, you know what? It was amazing. It was amazing because I was listening to the way I speak and what I say and how I say it and how I explain things. And so I have been saving all of these videos for the last 20 or 25 years. I have pretty much recorded everything I've ever done because I thought someday I'm going to transcribe it and I'll have my book. And I just never have. So a friend of mine about 6 months ago, he says, hey, let's do this together. So I'll do this for you. I'm setting up a website. We're going to upload all of your workshops, your speaking engagements, your podcasts, and we're going to create like a Netflix of Marcia Martin. We'll have a membership club. So we did it. We did it. It's fantastic. It's amazing. It's like really looks good and everything. So it's like a Netflix. It's called the Marcia Martin Club, the Marcia Martin Membership Club. It's $10 a month because I just want to make it available. You know, it's workshops that I've been charging anywhere from $800 to $1,200. They're 3 days each. There's speaking engagements. There's CDs that I've made, and we're continuing to upload. So if you go to marciamartinclub.com, and it's MarciaMartin club.com, you can register. Now, here's what I've been finding, and now I can promise. So I had a little beta group, about 20 people. Older, younger, different traditions, different customs, different everything to see, you know, how do you like it? What do I need? Blah, blah, blah. It's very simple. You just go in, you click on, if you want to watch a workshop, then it opens up and it's a 3-day workshop. It's broken down into modules and it tells you how much time each module is. It tells you what each module is about. So you can pick if you want to learn about sex, and I've got lots of stuff in there, and relationships or leadership or championship or selling. It's fabulous, right? And then you can watch. Now, here's what I found out, and here's what I'm promising. You or anybody you know, register and watch it and listen to it for 30 minutes a week or an hour every 2 weeks for a few months. Here's what people are saying. Marcia, my brain is being rewired. Marcia, I have this thing I've been dealing with my mother for all of these years. And after listening to a workshop of yours, I changed what I did. I said this to her and it worked. We're getting those kinds of results. So I am so excited. I would love for you and be honored if you would consider being a part of it. And whether you're a part of it or not, if you would get the word out, marciamartinclub.com. So, any questions about that? You can tell I'm so excited because it's like
I know, and it's fabulous. I mean, it's your whole lifetime just packaged into one space, which is amazing. Yeah. What a gift!
And we're uploading. We're going to have in this next year. We're creating webinars and we'll have live events, and we're getting to that place. But right now we're doing. It's very simple right now.
All right.
So do any of you have any more questions or comments before we turn off here? It's been an hour, so I'm done talking.
Yes. There's still one question, but I'm not sure if you're still ready to answer that, from Roger. He's saying, normally they say the belief among speakers is that to be effective, it has to be all about the audience, about the person you speak to, not yourself. And you're saying that we should actually share our own stories, right? So what are your thoughts on that?
Here's my thoughts on that. You should do an audience analysis and be considerate of who you're speaking to. Just like Paul said about different cultures. You need to understand who your audience is. When I speak to bankers, it's different than when I speak to movie producers. I'm working with Hard Rock Hotels right now, and those guys are fun. And they are, they rock. And we have concerts. I mean, we were just at the Super Bowl with Jennifer Lopez. So, that's a different audience than, say, you have a library, a group of librarians. It's just a different audience. It doesn't mean that you speak about them. It means you speak about yourself, considering who you're speaking to. So if I'm with a lot of marketing people, when I'm on stage, I'm like this. If I'm with bankers, I'm like this. Okay? But I'm still sharing about myself, but I do it a little, I tone it down a little bit. I decide I don't say things like shit, and I don't talk about sex. But, with the marketing people, I do. So that's my answer to that. Does that make sense and help a bit?
Brilliant. Brilliant. Before we emphasize again the amazing once-in-a-lifetime Marcia Martin, I'd love to give like 30 seconds to Paul very quickly, because Paul is a very special guest with us today as well. Paul is actually the current president of the Global Speaker Federation. And Paul, we're going to meet in 2 weeks in Namibia. Do you want to say something about the upcoming event? And then we want again, shower Marcia with our Marcia love.
Well, as you say, the Global Speakers Federation is now 17 international associations. We have now Russia included. And once every 2 years, we come together in a country somewhere in the world. And this year it's Southern Africa, so Namibia. It's very safe. So if you have time, please come there. It's one of the amazing African countries where you should go. We will have 4 days with 65 international top speakers on stage, but we will have a lot of fun as well. So the Global Speaker Summit, GSS 2020, that's the website and the Facebook page. And we will be there and we will have a lot of fun, and it's cheap over there. So the flight might be European prices.
Comparatively so. If you live there, they probably don't think it's cheap. But if you live here, we think it's cheap.
It's quite cheap. The flights will be more expensive, but no, it will be a lot of fun to be with 150 international colleagues in a small German-like town. So it will be fun. Thank you.
Yeah. Great. And I can't wait to be there with all of you. And, it's let's not talk about cheap. Let's talk about it's priceless to be there, right? Because honestly, it is. I mean, for me personally, just practicing what Marcia told us, I've been to the GSS in Vancouver and it was mind-blowing. I mean, I met incredible speakers. I met event organizers. I made incredible connections. I interviewed a lot of those people. We learned a lot. We shared a lot with our community. So, you know, if you are a speaker, you want to be amongst other amazing speakers and, you know, open yourself doors all over the world. So it was amazing for me. If you still don't have plans in 2 weeks and you want to come and join us, join us. If you cannot make it this time, definitely look into where is your local speaker association and join that one and really connect with local speakers and join us again in 2 years when we meet somewhere else. But again, it's 2 weeks, so it's not too late. You can still sign up. And Paul and I will be there. It's going to be amazing. However, we're going to round this off with you, Marcia, and I'm also going to be sharing the GSS 2020 link in all our communities we have, so everyone has access to that, Paul. And also let me share with you the link to Marcia's direct website here, marciamartin.com. Oh, sorry, I don't want to send that to Marcia. I want to send that to everyone, actually. Okay, so yeah, check her out. I mean, I've known, as Marcia said, we've known each other for quite a few years, and I have to say that I learned so much from you, and it's changed my life, it's changed my work, it's changed everything in so many ways. And I'm a speaking trainer, but you know what? If there's someone to learn something about really the fundamentals on speaking, you definitely want to learn from Marcia. And you know, so the Marcia Martin Club is definitely like a pot of gold and more, and jewels and everything else you find in Namibia and anywhere around the world. So, but I hope you all enjoyed the session today, and I highly recommend you listen to it again and again and again. And I know I will, because I've worked with Marcia many years, which means that I do understand the power of what she said, because I'm living it today. 10%, 90% to come. Okay, so anyhow, I hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you, Marcia, for being here with us. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. Thank you for your amazing work you do in the world. And again, let's go out there and just, you know, create space. Because Marcia, one of your greatest quotes that I kind of became part of my system is either space or things in space. So first we need to create space, and then we can put in our precious gifts. So thank you for being our precious gift tonight, Marcia. Thank you all for your incredible work you do in the world. Janelle, Roger, Tanya, Paul, Danya, everyone's here with us. Keep doing it and step up. Okay, become a master of persuasion, and yet now you have the tools of how to make it happen. And next month again, we're going to be here and have another precious guest. And in the meantime, Marcia, you're part of our mySpeakerBusiness community, so you can watch out on what people are posting. So everyone also share how this call was for you, and you know, if any questions come up, there's always an opportunity to connect with Marcia and everyone else. Excellent. Okay. Thank you all for this call. Have a fabulous month. Thank you so much, everyone. And,
God bless.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Marcia. Thank you, Monique. Thank you, everyone. Bye.